Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me. And today we're going to talk about picky eaters and cultured foods, something that I have a lot of experience with because I had very picky eaters in my house and when I first started making and eating cultured foods. So if you have picky eaters in your house or you have friends and family that kind of scoff at you eating these cultured foods, well, let me tell you about my Mr. Picky Eater, who is my husband, and what I went through to get him to like cultured foods. When he was young, they called him Wrapper Man because he ate all of his meals from food wrappers. He would grab stuff at gas stations. It was pretty horrific. He ate, so much processed food, it would make my head spin. And it's like the worst thing on the planet for you. And, love is blind. And I loved him and I was young. And this is way before cultured foods. But even then, I knew that you can't live on a diet of processed food. And he has come a very, very long way. And he does eat and embrace cultured foods, changed his whole diet. He's not perfect by any means, but he's really has done a 180. When I first started making these foods, which was 22 years ago, he was supportive, but he thought these cultured foods in these jars were science projects. And one of the first things that he liked was kombucha tea. Now, kombucha can look really weird while it's fermenting in the pot. And my daughter Macy came to me and said, never, ever allow Dad to look in the kombucha pot because if he sees how it's made and the way it looks, he'll never drink it again. Especially if he sees the SCOBY, because he never saw it because we had it in a crock that wasn't see-through. So he never really saw what kombucha looked like for many years. So and that was the reason I got the crock and not a glass jar because I didn't want him to see it. So the SCOBYs, while they are wonderful combinations of bacteria and yeast, they tend to kind of freak people out at first when they don't know what it is because I think it was my son who called it the creature from the deep because it floats around. It can sink or float, and then it forms a seal at the top, and it forms the size of the crock or the glass jar or the jug that you have it in. It will form that size. One lady made it in a punch bowl, and she had the biggest SCOBY you've ever seen. It was humongous. It filled the punch bowl. I mean, it was big, and it's funny because people love to make kombucha, but it does look crazy. But he really loved kombucha. It really helped him a lot. And he liked the bubbliness. And at the time, I think he was drinking a lot of Diet Coke. And it was really kombucha that helped him and everybody get off of it. And I was really thankful for that because not only is it fizzy and bubbly, it has very little sugar. 85 to 95% of it's gone, the sugar. But it has tons of B vitamins, lots of probiotics and good yeast in it too. Really good yeast that are really good. They're probiotics and they're wonderful, really wonderful for you. Now, he likes kefir smoothies. He has kefir almost every day. And he likes what he does, he likes some fruit smoothies. But I have to make it for him in the blender. If he wants a smoothie, what he normally does in the morning is he takes a glass of kefir, he just pours it in plain, and he'll mix some like simple reds into it and, a little bit of collagen powder, and that's how he has it every day almost. And he really likes that. And the fact that he's doing it because it helps him in many ways. And we also he likes cultured vegetables. But in the beginning, he looked at those cultured vegetables and he said to me, it's not happening. I'm not having those. That was the first response I got from him the first time I came to him with cultured vegetables. And one of the ones that I made had garlic in it, so he could smell it, had a pungent, smell of garlic. And he was like, nope, not happening. I'm not eating that. So through the years, I kept trying, and he would eat them reluctantly until one day I got a recipe from a good friend of mine, a woman who came to my class named Shelley. And she said she made these vegetables that people were just going crazy for. And it's called Shelley's Cultured Vegetables on my website, if you want the link. They are so good. And she's become a wonderful friend. And she's the one who designed the little pots on my website. She's wonderful. And this recipe was so delicious. And he eats gallons of this recipe. And the fact was that he started even to get it out of the fridge and eat it himself was a major success for me. And he loves the tomatoes, the bruschetta tomatoes that we make, where you chop up tomatoes, garlic, basil, and salt, and then you put a culture in it, let it culture for like a day or two on the counter and put in the fridge. And then you top it. We top it with, we'll put it on toast and we'll have a little bit of goat cheese on the bottom. It tastes like bruschetta. He will actually make that recipe himself because you make it with cherry tomatoes, and he makes that. He loves that. Actually, we just made some yesterday, and everybody's been eating it. It's almost gone. So that's something that he really likes. But he said that eating cultured vegetables gives him his stealthness. And I'm not sure what that means, but he said that eating cultured vegetables really makes him feel good. So that's whatever his stealthness is. I don't know what that means, but he loves them. And he said that's why he eats them. So I always have those types of veggies in my fridge because they last like 9 months. He likes to make them with dips. He loves the Kefir onion dip is his favorite. I named it after him because it's basically caramelized onion. You just cook onions till they're caramelized, and you add Kefir cheese to it. You can even add yogurt cheese, and you mix it up. It makes the best onion dip in the whole wide world. We make that all the time. And one of his other favorite things that he does with cultured vegetables is we take Kefir cheese or even yogurt cheese that's, it's creamy, and we'll put a couple spoonfuls of cultured veggies in it. And I tell you not, that is a very, very popular recipe. I know that sounds weird, but it is so delicious. He will eat, we will eat and make those things and everybody who tries it loves it. I took him to the lake one time. We were down at the lake and we had a little party down there, some friends of ours. And I brought that dip, and one guy ate so much of it, I started to get worried. And I said, I don't think you should. I mean, he was eating cups of this stuff. He goes, I don't know what's in this. I can't stop eating it. And I said to him, you better stop. That's billions and billions of probiotics that you're not used to. And I said, you're going to be thinking about me tomorrow. So he was, because he was in the bathroom. Because what happens when you eat a lot of cultures and you're not used to it, the body floods you with new probiotics. Those microbes just go in. And when they have the numbers, when they have a lot of numbers, they will go in and they will clean house. They will kill those other pathogens. They will make them move out. And they'll have to exit the body. And they just start to replace all the bad stuff in your gut. But it's quite a ruckus if you're not used to it, because they're fighting with each other, trying to kill guys. And it's really interesting. Like I thought they've got probiotic yeast in them too. And yeast shoot at each other with like a liquid to kill each other. I didn't know that. And it's kind of interesting how, there's a whole universe going on down in your gut. And you're 100 trillion bacteria. So it's go a little slow. I mean, this guy ate cups of it, but they're so good. And Kefir cheese is so fun and easy to make. And you just mix the two together and you have a wonderful dip that has a lot of flavor. And it especially goes really well with this Shelley's cultured vegetable recipe, because it has cabbage and apple and spinach and carrots. It just has a wonderful flavor, and it has some seasonings in it that make it really pop. And you can eat with chips or veggies, and it is really, really a wonderful dip recipe for people who are looking for something to feed. And most people don't know it's probiotics. I mean, it's probiotic foods or cultured foods. They don't know that. So it's a really big hit. A lot of times if you tell them, they won't touch it, but it's really good. So anyway, those are really good for picky eaters. And you can really use any cultured vegetable recipe to make some of these dips. And you can use, I've got an orangeade kraut that's good. I've got all kinds of recipes. Lemon kraut, you can just take a few tablespoons of it and mix it in the Kefir cheese, and it's just that easy. So if you have a picky eater at your house, I have lots of recipes that you can start with. I always made my daughter, when she was little, I made her a smoothie with kefir, and I put lemons in it and lemon juice, and I think I don't know if it was stevia or something. I mixed it all in a blender with some ice, and I told her it was a lemon milkshake, and she believed me, and she loved it. That was one of her favorite things to eat, was her smoothie. I would make her all different kinds. I would make her kefir breakfast pudding. She liked that. Kids love cultured carrots because they're not very different from regular carrots. They're not super sour or tart because there's so many sugars in carrots. They only culture for a couple days on your counter, but they taste like regular carrots. So kids really like them and they get a lot of probiotics from them. But remember, the juice also in cultured vegetables is just as powerful as the vegetables themselves. And it's really good for you. And so even a teaspoon of the juice is fabulous for picky eaters. And I used to put it in my ketchups. I used to put it in my mustards. I used to put a spoonful of the juice in there because you couldn't taste it, but it would give those foods probiotics. I have a lot of recipes. I have a fermented hummus that's really good because hummus is delicious. I have a garlic and kefir cauliflower mash that is like mashed potatoes that has a little bit of kefir in it. We have grape kombucha. We have kefir sodas. Kefir sodas are so good for picky eaters. That's a really big hit with people who are picky. I have, people come over and goes, oh, I would eat that. Or drink that. That's really good. So I have a lot of kefir soda recipes. I have a lot of kombucha recipes. A cheese ball. Kefir cheese balls are a really good one for picky eaters. And it works out really well. You can put nuts on it or seasonings. All these recipes are going to be in the link description below. I told you about the kefir kraut dip. We have things like peanut butter kefir ice cream, and you can substitute almond butter, cashew butter. Makes really good. Kefir cheese makes fabulous ice cream. And if you want to make it sugar-free, use allulose, the sweetener allulose, because it doesn't have any calories, but it has a low freezing point, so it'll keep the ice cream soft. So it works really good. And I have a lot of recipes for that. I have a lot of sourdough recipes for people who are picky eaters because they're so good for you. When you ferment the sourdough, it really changes like the glycemic index of the bread. But not only that, it allows you to skyrocket a lot of the nutrients, give you B vitamins, give you all kinds of things that you wouldn't normally get. And you also will be able to digest and get the vitamins from it. In normal breads that aren't fermented, it locks up those the enzyme inhibitors. They're there, so you can't digest it, but you also get a lot of phthalates in it, and it just allows you to not absorb nutrients. And sourdough deactivates all that. It's fabulous. I have also things like soaked nuts. They're really good for you. Like you could soak your nuts and sprout them. There's a company now that bought our culture. It's called, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. They're called gut nuts. You can just Google it, and I think they're on Amazon. They're in Whole Foods, and they use our culture to do those nuts, and they are fabulous. They're wonderful. They're called gut nuts by Philosopher's Foods. That's who it is. And they're great. They're soaked and sprouted, which means you'll get the nutrients from them. Most nuts also have the same thing that grains have, where they lock up the nutrients, and then they can kind of wreak havoc on your gut when you soak them. And then you can dehydrate them, and they'll last 3 times longer, but they also have really good probiotics for you, and they're really good. I also have a recipe for Tuscan zucchini dip, which is fabulous. I love that. Actually, I need to make that today because I have some zucchini. And the tomatoes I was talking about. I also have a spicy kefir veggie dip that's really good. And it's just kefir cheese, cultured vegetables, and has a ton of vitamin C in it. And it's spicy and kind of like you could serve it with, Mexican, or you could just serve it by itself. It's really good. It's one of my favorite recipes for dips too. I have a lot of dips. So anyway, these are just a few of the recipes I have for picky eaters. But here's the deal. You don't want to force cultured foods on anybody because they'll come when they're ready. You just keep doing it yourself, and eventually they will cave, and they'll want to try it, because that happened to me. So I just wait till people are ready and they come to me, and then really that's the best way to do it, because if you try to tell them, they'll just resist. They're not ready. But everybody that kind of picked on me in the beginning when I was making these foods, telling me I was crazy to be making and eating cultured foods, all caved and all started eating and making them. And they were some of my biggest success stories because they really embraced it. And that keeps happening too. So people are like, you need to tell them to eat this. So I said, well, I'm not going to tell them because they're not ready. They're not asking for my information. So when they're ready, they'll come. So if you're listening to this, then you're probably ready. So check out all my recipes. Eat the food yourself, and your picky eaters will. Well, I kind of tricked my family too, but eventually they all started eating and making them themselves. And that's an everyday experience at my house. They'll eat different ones and different things. And it's really fun to do. And I make lots of kefir sodas and kombuchas, so we always have that available for everybody, especially in the summertime when it's hot outside. Kind of a refreshing drink. So thanks for listening, guys. And I hope you'll try out some of these recipes. They can really help you. And sooner or later, before you know it, everybody will be eating them. So have a great week, guys. We'll see you next time.